Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar. We're just going to wait a few more moments for other people to log on and join us. Thanks. Hello and welcome to today's All Traffic Solutions webinar, Increasing School Year Road Safety, Proven Strategies You Can Use Now. My name is Jennifer Saunders and I'm the Marketing Director for All Traffic Solutions. I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that you'll receive an email link to the recorded presentation and we invite you to share your presentation with your colleagues. And now I would like to introduce you to today's presenter, Cam Reed.
Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you attending. And I'm having some issues with controlling the screen here. Give me just a second. There we go. All right, so we were trying to discuss different options to kind of present some of our equipment to you all on a webinar, and when they asked me to help out with this one, I thought this is the perfect time of year to go over some school zone safety programs. I'm sure that all of you are getting complaints and requests in school zones since school has just started back, or it's just about to start back, from parents, from school administrators, even from motorists that are driving through the school zones, of issues in the school zones, primarily with speeding and inattentive drivers. So what we're going to talk about is traffic in school zones, challenges for law enforcement and public safety and public works as well, regarding the school zones with the speed limits, with crossing guards, with crossing areas, how to use data to kind of evaluate if there is an actual problem in the area, and how to attack that problem to slow traffic or calm traffic or make it a little bit safer for pedestrians crossing the street. And we'll talk about some of the products that we have that can assist you in that mission. So of course, as I said, it's school time, so you've got a lot more traffic coming to and from the schools in the morning and in the afternoon. I don't think anybody runs on time anymore, so everybody seems to be running late and trying to rush into the school zone. I know as a police officer, I spent most of my career in traffic and did a lot of school zone enforcement, and the majority of the people that I stopped speeding in a school zone seemed to have kids in that school as they were rushing them to get them into class on time and not have them be tardy, as well as school buses. I've actually stopped a few school buses in school zones as well, in the same school zone that they were dropping children off, speeding through the school zone. Through the summer break, the last 2 or 3 months, depending on how school runs in your jurisdiction, people have gotten used to not being behind school buses on their way to work. So now that the school buses are out on the road making frequent stops, it's slowing traffic as well and frustrating people. And as I'm sure anyone who drives is aware now, more prevalent in the last few years, people are distracted more and more as they're driving, whether they're talking on the phone or even more so texting or even looking at Facebook while they're driving, and pedestrians as well. Just about every city I've driven through where there's a lot of walking traffic in the area, you see people constantly looking down at their cell phone and not really paying attention to where they're going, even when they're crossing the street or approaching the edge of the street and walking out into traffic, because they're more involved with their phone and a text message that they have going on or responding to an email than they are things that could hurt them as they're walking along. Some of the statistics that are pretty interesting to me. In 1969, 50% of all school kids walked or biked to school. And I don't know about where you live, but where I live, that is definitely not something you see anymore. I very rarely see kids even walking to school. In 2015, that was 13% of all school kids were walking or riding bikes to school. So it's dropped dramatically. The biggest way that people get to school, or the kids get to school now, 75% of them in 2015 got to and from school by car. And I see that every morning as I come through any of the school zones in the county that I live in, or anywhere that I travel when I'm working. You can see cars lined up waiting to drop their kids off in the morning, and lined up again in the afternoon waiting to pick their children up. Even though there's still school bus routes and school buses that are running daily, it seems like a lot more people opt to drive their kids to school. And 30% of the morning traffic is generated by kids driving, or by parents driving their kids to school in the morning. So that's a pretty substantial number. So what does that mean for you? There's a lot more demands on law enforcement. People want to see officers in the school zones. They want to see officers enforcing the speed limit in those school zones, unless it's them. 9 times out of 10, when we would get a complaint in a certain area and took enforcement action, we would usually get the person that complained. I don't know if it's different where you are, but that seemed to be a regular thing where I worked. They want to see traffic slowing down, and if there's a problem in the area with the speed limit, they want to see the speed limit lowered, which is not always, just something that you can go out to do. You need to do speed surveys and traffic studies to see if the speed limit does need to be adjusted. So how can you respond effectively to all these complaints and demands in school zones? One of the easiest ways is to make use of radar speed displays, radar message displays, variable message boards to try to calm traffic, to slow people down, to make them aware of a school zone as they approach. I'm sure that in every jurisdiction there's school zone signs up, but they're up year-round. So it's been my experience that when a sign is up for too long, that people stop seeing it. They just don't pay it any attention, especially if they come through that same area day after day. So being able to put a temporary sign or something that will actually flash lights at them and look a little bit different than your standard amber beacons on a school zone sign kind of draws their attention to it a little bit more. And if you can move it around, it makes it even better. I agree with this 100%. Most drivers don't intentionally speed. I would say at least maybe 75% of them don't. You've always got that fringe group that's always, that's what they do. They drive fast all the time, and that's the way it's going to be. But making them aware of their speed limit will absolutely slow them down. Most people lose thought. They're thinking about something else. They're on their cell phone talking, and they don't realize that they've come into a school zone until they see that your speed sign flashing and maybe red or blue or white lights flashing to indicate that they're exceeding the speed limit. And normally they comply and they slow down and they realize this is a school zone. And it can change their habits in the future as well. So I'm sure everyone on the phone that's in law enforcement, you don't have 2 or 3 officers per school to put in a school zone, one at each end to slow traffic. So you can use radar speed displays to kind of slow traffic down, and it's kind of a force multiplier for your guys. You don't have to have so many people out handling all these complaints. You can put a speed sign out there to do the same thing. So different ways to handle this problem. The first way is to gather data to see if you even have a problem. A lot of times when we get a complaint, either in a school zone or most especially in a neighborhood, everyone's doing 80 past my house all day long. When you go out and do a speed survey, you find that no, they're really not doing 80 past your house all day long. They may be doing 45, in a 25-mile-an-hour zone on occasion, or you may see a specific time where it's really an issue, either in the morning or in the afternoon, and you can kind of attack that problem at the time where it's the worst. So being able to do a baseline study and see if you even have a problem is a great thing to do. If you determine that you do have a problem, like I said, if it's in the morning between 7 and 8, then you can put a couple of traffic officers out there in that area to handle the problem, to run handheld LiDAR and take enforcement action on the ones that are in excess of the speed limit. You can also conduct a full traffic study to see if that speed limit does need to be changed. There's times where the speed limit may need to be lowered because of congestion. There may be times when the speed limit in an area is set too low, and based on your 85th percentile data, you'll see that 85% of the people that travel that roadway travel a higher speed, so it may justify you in raising the speed limit in that area. And with our Dragon Eye LiDARs that we have, the Dragon Eye Speed LiDAR and the Dragon Eye Compact LiDAR, we actually have an Android app that you can record every single shot that you take and do a traffic study in the area as well. So one traffic officer, shoots 1,000 cars that come through the school zone in the morning. You can kind of determine how bad of a problem that you have. Second way, like I said earlier, use radar speed displays to slow traffic. A lot of statistics are out there on the use of radar speed displays as being the most effective traffic calming method over and above speed tables and speed humps and roundabouts. Radar speed displays are the most effective. Just from my experience, anywhere we put up speed tables or speed humps, it seemed like speeds in between those tables or those speed humps actually sped up because people would slow down to avoid damaging their vehicle as they crossed over them, and then speed up in between them to get to the next one so they weren't slowed down in any way going through that area. So prior to installation of a radar speed display, in most areas, the speed was nearly 10 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. After they put it up, the speed limit or the average speed decreased by 9 miles an hour, which is bringing it a little bit more into compliance. And the average speeds were still 9 miles an hour lower for 4 months after it was installed. And there's a lot of studies out there that also show that once that sign has moved to a different location, that for 4 months, traffic is still affected by the people that come through on a daily basis and have seen it in the past. It still affects their behavior. And that's the main point of doing traffic enforcement in the first place, is to get voluntary compliance, to change people's driving behavior. So by using a radar speed display, as I said earlier, I'm sure most agencies don't have enough officers, enough manpower to put, one on each end of the school zone. So using a radar speed display, you can kind of augment the officers' enforcement at different school zones or different locations, different neighborhoods, and help them be out somewhere else where they need to be, either working a crash or patrolling neighborhoods instead of sitting in a school zone for an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon when there's no data to support that they should actually be out there. You can use a radar speed display so those fringe outliers, the 5 or 10 that come through the school zone that are in excess of the speed limit, it reminds them in a more friendly way without getting a citation that they need to slow down, and kind of frees up your officers to be somewhere else and saves your budget a little bit. You don't have to hire officers to come in the morning for overtime or in the afternoon for overtime to do speed enforcement in a school zone. Radar speed displays are awesome at clearing complaints without having to have someone out there physically doing a traffic study. You can go to an area, the 100 block of Main Street where you're getting complaints, and you can run the sign out there collecting data for a full week. So it gives you a good solid report to show average speeds, high speeds, low speeds, the 85th percentile, the 50th percentile, speeds by time of day. You can break it down by every hour of the day, and volume counts by hour of the day, so that you can go back to that person that complains and show them bar charts and graphs and true data from a speed display that, as I said earlier, either there's a perception problem, people aren't going as fast as they look like they're going. A lot of times in a curve, a vehicle will look like it's traveling a lot faster than it is, or over a hill crest. And I found in neighborhoods most times where there's a sidewalk down the side of the road and there's a lot of people walking up and down the sidewalk, of course the vehicles are a lot closer to them, so it looks like they're traveling a whole lot faster than they are. So it gives you a little bit of data to go back and show that person that either A, there is a problem and we'll go out there during these specific times and try to take enforcement action, or B, it's just a perception problem, it's not a true speeding problem. Those things you can put up on your website. It may save you a couple of calls with complaints in the first place. If Miss Smith on Main Street calls to complain that people are speeding in front of her house and she sees 2 or 3 surveys that you've done in that same area, it may prevent her even calling to complain. Or she may just call you to tell you that your equipment's not working properly. You can conduct many traffic studies to record the number of vehicles for a time period. We've actually done a lot of business with some business owners and property management groups that are looking to get vehicle counts for prospective clients to start a business in a certain area. Based on traffic volume, they decide that they want to move in a business there because there's enough traffic to support it. A lot of times with DOT reports, if that's what you're utilizing for traffic volume counts, you never really know when DOT came out and did that traffic study. So you can find a vehicle count, but if you live in an area where you may have festivals at certain times of the year that bring in a lot of additional traffic, or vacation homes where you have people coming in during certain times of the year and your traffic volume increases, it allows you to do a study during those peak times when you know the volume count is a little bit higher, and football games and everything else to see when the traffic volume is higher, when the speeds are higher. And always use these to demonstrate the need for funding. So anybody that's ever applied for a grant, you know that you have to have a identified problem with a problem statement, how you're going to address that problem, what equipment you need to resolve that problem, and to measure, whether you're being effective in your program that you've set up to either slow traffic or make drivers more aware in a certain area to reduce the number of crashes. It's always great to have baseline data at the beginning of that, and then to show how you're utilizing that piece of equipment throughout the year. And with our traffic cloud, you're clearly able to do that, to show exactly what the problem was when you started, how you addressed it, how many times you deployed the unit in different areas, and then what the effect of deploying that unit was at the end. One in 5 high school students and 1 in 8 middle school students were distracted by a mobile device. I think that sounds pretty low. That's from a Safe Kids study. I would say it's probably substantially higher than 1 in 5, especially high school drivers, but high school students overall. And in Chicago, between 2007 and 11, nearly 1,700 children from ages 5 to 18 were struck by vehicles within a block of a school. So it shows you how dangerous school zones can be if they're left unattended. So it's definitely a need. Some of the programs that we've just started here recently is a smart zone for schools. You can see the sign on the right. We've added an amber beacon to flash at a preset speed limit. We've got our radar speed display below it with a your speed wrap in yellow, so it's a little bit more noticeable. We've added an audible alert. So the speed limit in this school zone being 25, you can set that sign so that from speeds of 1 to 25, it just displays a solid number. 26 to 30, it flashes the number to let motorists know that they're exceeding the speed limit. 36 and above, you can have it flash the beacon, and then say at 40, it will also set off an audible alert. So if you have a pedestrian crossing ahead with children crossing the roadway, or a school crossing guard ahead, that audible alert, not only will it let the driver hear it as well as see it if they're paying attention, it'll also let people further down the roadway know, that school crossing guard or the kids crossing the street, that there is a faster approaching vehicle and that they need to be, taking evasive action. But at least it draws their attention to that vehicle, and they can pay attention to it as it's coming towards them and do what they need to do to get out of its way. We have, through our traffic cloud, remote access to set schedules for that sign. The closest schools to me that my son went to, a couple of miles from my house, there's one stretch of roadway, I don't think it's a mile long, between an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school, all on the same road. So you can imagine what traffic is like for several hours in the morning and in the afternoon. But all three of those school zones have different times. The elementary school may be from 7:30 to 8:30, the middle school from 8:30 to 8:45, and the high school from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning, but they're all three different. So you can go in and schedule all those signs to start at different times to reduce the speed to 25. It's normally a 45 mile an hour zone. So it will reduce the speed limit to 25, and all the settings in the sign for when to flash the beacon, when to flash a strobe, when to do the audible alert. You can set all those individually. Another thing that makes that nice is if you have a week off from school for spring break, then you can go in there and turn those signs off, so it's not confusing motorists that are coming through the school zone when it's not an active school zone because kids aren't present in the school. It allows you to do that remotely without having to travel out to the sign and make the changes yourself. And of course, you can always gather data from any of them and see if there's a continuing problem, or if the signs are being more effective and slowing traffic, or if you need to take additional actions. With our INSITUTE variable message displays, you can help to relieve congestion around certain areas, whether it's a football game or basketball game or a school concert for the school band, graduation. You can set up the INSITUTE variable message to display to point people into the right direction for parking. You can set it up a week in advance to let people know, before the event ever starts, this is going to be a congested area on August the 31st. So they know they may not want to come through there. Or you can advertise, how much parking is, where to go to park, things of that nature, leading up to and in front of the venue for whatever event you have. So it kind of frees up, instead of having to have an officer or a school resource officer or someone standing directing traffic and answering questions, you can kind of answer those questions as drivers approach. Those can also be used for road closures. If you've got a bridge out, it can be set up to let you know a month in advance that this bridge is going to be out. So I know just about every time I ever directed traffic around something like that, it seemed, even though somebody had lived in the same house for 20 years, they only knew one way to get to it or to get out of it. So it kind of lets them know you may want to find some alternate routes before this bridge is out and this road is closed. It can also calm traffic, letting people know before they even get to an area that there's a high school graduation. They know they may want to turn right before they get to it and go around it and not even get involved in that traffic. We can also do conditional messaging with the radar speed display, the radar message displays, or the variable message displays. I already mentioned road closures, but you can also do emergency information we can send out an Amber Alert to every sign in your inventory all at one time with just a few clicks of a button. We can do variable speed limits around Atlanta, outside of where I live, around 285, the perimeter that goes around Atlanta. They have changeable speed limits based on traffic congestion. So as traffic starts to get congested around Atlanta, the speed limit may go from 65 to 55, and then further down to 45 as it gets more congested. So we can do that with our Shield 15 or Speed Alert 18. You can remotely change the speed limit on the sign. You can do construction notices. They're very valuable for public works departments. If you have a water main break and you're trying to divert traffic, instead of having to have a flag man standing behind your work crew, you can have chevrons going left and a brief explanation on the sign: road closed due to water break, turn left on Main Street, to kind of divert traffic around it. We can also do different sensors into the sign. So if you've got an area where it's prone to flooding, we can connect a flood sensor to the sign to trigger a specific message. So as water starts rising in that area and the flood sensor detects it, it can change the message on the sign to say, you know, don't drown, turn around, road closed ahead, flood ahead, things of that nature. So some of the things that we have that you can do covert traffic studies with: our stat track, our cross track, and the speed lane. These are all covert units. They don't have displays. So to me, you get a little bit more accurate information with them. Even though the radar speed display, you can blank it out so it's not showing a display and try to collect traffic data that way. This unit, the stat track, is about 6 inches by 4.5 inches. It'll hang on anything from a 2-inch pole to a telephone pole, and it looks like it belongs on a telephone pole if that's where you mount it. It's facing traffic. It has everything included in it. It's a battery, a radar, a Bluetooth connection. We can do a cell modem for remote connection to it, but it's just pulling traffic data. It'll do speed data. It'll do vehicle counts, and it'll also do vehicle classification as small, medium, or large. It will get up to 2 lanes approaching, or if you can put it in a median in between opposing lanes, it will detect the speeds and counts of 2 lanes approaching and 2 lanes receding. You can remotely access that through the traffic cloud and be able to run reports and pull data from it, make changes to it. Or it has Bluetooth inside. You can pull up close to it and download all the data via Bluetooth. It's a great unit to quell complaints, and it's a little, not so much traffic calming, it's a little more covert, so you get truer speed data from it. The Crosstrack has a side fire radar. It's a vehicle count only. It will do up to 6 lanes and shoots across the roadway. So if you have a need for vehicle counts in a certain area and you're used to the road tubes, you no longer have to run the road tubes out across the road and worry about personnel crossing the street there to put those things down and getting struck by a vehicle. The road tubes tend to get torn up after a while, especially in inclement weather. So no more road tubes. It just uses a side fire radar to do vehicle counts only. And then the speed lane, it will do speed, vehicle counts, as well as classification, and it can do up to 8 lanes. So you could put this up on the side of the interstate, and it will do 8 lanes in either direction: vehicle counts, speed evaluations, and classification as well. This is what kind of sets us apart. Our traffic cloud, we have the patent for being able to connect to a unit remotely on the side of the road and collect data from it. So they're all internet ready. You could tie into it if you were on vacation in Alaska. You could access your signs and pull data, change the message on it, change the settings on it, and go ahead and run reports without having to physically go out to the sign. That's a big deal if you have, 10 or 15 signs. I know the city of Omaha has about 60 around the city. So being able to pull up those remotely and access the data that are inside versus having to physically send someone out to each and every sign to download that data and collect it, that could take forever depending on the amount of signs you have. It allows you to be able to go ahead and do a report and send that out to via email. If you set it up because the mayor's complaining, one of the city council members are complaining of speeding in a certain area, and you set the sign out on Monday, and on Tuesday they're already calling to see what the results are, you can access that sign, run a report, and go ahead and send them a preliminary report before your study is done. You can also set different alerts because it's web-based. So it can send you a text message or an email when the batteries get low. They all have accelerometers inside, so they detect motion. If somebody comes up and starts trying to vandalize the sign, banging on it, or trying to pull it off the pole, it will detect motion, and it'll start sending text messages or emails to you to let you know that someone's tampering with that sign. Also has an internal awareness camera built in, so it will start snapping photos as someone starts tampering with your sign, and you get those in an email or text as well. They have GPS in them, so if someone does remove the sign from the pole and try to relocate it for you, you'll get that alert, and you'll also see where it's going and help you retrieve that asset. And hopefully with the pictures and the GPS data, helps you to prosecute them as well. You have the ability to change any of the settings on multiple signs. Like I said earlier, with the tamper alert, with the amber alert, you can put in one amber alert and send it to every sign in your inventory really easily. You can also pull them up and see where they are on Google Maps to make sure that they're being deployed properly. I know a lot of times when I would come in as a traffic supervisor, I would have no idea where our signs had been deployed on my 2 days off, or if I was on vacation, I'd have no idea where they were. But this way I can pull it up on Google Maps and see exactly where they are, how much battery life is left, what messages are being displayed, pull data from them, all those things remotely. Some of the benefits to having them tied into the internet, of course, it saves time. You're not driving around the city trying to pull data from each and every sign. You can kind of prioritize your resources. Instead of having 4 officers out collecting data or 4 public works workers out collecting data from all the signs, you can do it from your desktop and have them handling other issues. One of the greatest things about having them web enabled, especially with the message board, is if you have a sign set up because you have a 4th of July parade and you're instructing motorists to turn left on Main Street to avoid that, and now you have a crash to the left on Main Street. Instead of having to send someone back out to that sign in an already heavy traffic, now there's a crash, so traffic is backed up. You don't have to fight your way through traffic to get back up to that sign and change that message. You can remotely access it, change the message, and tell them to turn the other direction to avoid it completely. So, as our name says, All Traffic Solutions, we're here to help you with any traffic safety problems or issues that you're having with congestion. We have a number of different solutions. Our drive times to help people get from one place to another in a timely manner, choose the proper route. Our radar speed displays to slow traffic down, radar message displays to add a message to that as well to slow traffic down, or even have a thank you message when they're actually doing the speed limit to give a little positive reinforcement. And our traffic cloud helps you tie in all these things together in one place without having to use multiple programs to program your equipment. We also have a new system called the Traffic Bridge that we can use some of your older radar message displays or variable message displays and tie them into our traffic cloud as well, so you can control everything from one place. All right, we've got some time for some questions if you guys want to type any questions that you have about anything that I've talked about. I'd be happy to answer them.
Cam, I actually have a question. Are all Traffic Solutions devices, are the units AC powered only, or is there a solar option as well?
Okay, so all of them, we're pretty adaptable. We can put batteries in them, rechargeable lithium phosphate batteries, to keep them a little bit more portable. On the average, one battery will last you 4 to 5 days. Two will stretch it out to 8 to 10 days, depending on traffic. We can also do AC power if you want to permanently mount them in a school zone or area where you want to keep it permanently mounted, or we can do solar. So they're really
Great.
adaptable.
And can you talk about the mounting options as well?
Yeah, so I'm sure most people are more familiar with the standard trailer mount radar speed display or variable message display. We design ours to be lightweight and portable, so they're easily mounted to a pole or existing fixed object. We have a portable post for temporarily deploying the signs, either a radar speed display or message board. The legs fold out, allow you to plug it into a rechargeable battery pack and temporarily put it up somewhere. We have a receiver hitch mount, so you could put it on the back of a vehicle for public works vehicles working at a water main break, or even for traffic enforcement around different events where you're going to have a vehicle out there. Or, of course, we can trailer mount them as well.
Great, thanks. We did have a question about the slides. We will be sending a link out tomorrow to the presentation, as well as a link to the slide deck itself. And that is all the time we've got for today. So thank you everyone for joining us, and you can contact All Traffic Solutions from our website contact page. You can also see the contact information for the rep in your state, so please contact us. This concludes today's broadcast.